So I've been in photography all of my life, even as a kid. And how that happened was I really admired the photographs that my parents and relatives took of other people, family, friends, picnics. I was just enamored with the photographs because they were cool. And people were smiling and they were arranged, and it almost looked like it was staged, but it wasn't. People just turned around and got their picture made. During that same time frame, and I was under 10, maybe 8 to 10 years old, I really liked things that I saw, like light reflecting through autumn leaves with the sun reflecting it, and a nice bright outline of the leaves, things like that. And I would tell my mom, hey, that looks like it would make a nice picture. And Mom would look and say, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if she really thought the same that I did, or if she was just helping me by encouraging what I was seeing. So that set the stage for something that happened later. As a teenager, I had an Instamatic. It shot pretty good pictures, but not great. And I had a Polaroid land camera where I could develop a picture, an Instamatic kind of picture. They didn't shoot great pictures, but they were good mementos for people. Where I was actually able to dive in headfirst into photography was when I was 21. Priscilla and I were married, and we invested in a nice 35 millimeter camera with a nice lens on the front of it, and off I went. It was interesting because the things I saw as a kid carried forward with me, and they ended up being part of my compositions by the unusual things I saw that I liked, like reflecting off of a pond, or ripples in a pond, or the light behind leaves. I was fortunate enough to have a friend that was a photographer. I imagine he still is, and he was involved with a stock photo agency, and he would send them slides, and on occasion they would purchase the slides to go into their library or to be used directly for a commercial. And he was very competent as a photographer, and he took me under his wing and got me moving in the right direction. A few years later, in a place where I was working in Texas, I worked with a young man. We became friends, and he had access to a dark room. And I started exploring black and white dark room printing with him, and that was wonderful. But I didn't have access for very long, a few years. And when I left Texas, I no longer had access to the dark room. So over time, what happened to me was I didn't get discouraged, but I come to realize that I could not easily get a photograph in a composition that I wanted, because if it didn't come off the camera perfect, it wasn't going to work for me. So I just accepted the fact that's the way it was. So I had experience then with black and white photography, development of prints, but not color. And the gentleman that taught me understood color, but not black and white. I had good results in the lab with black and white photographs that I was printing. But I still couldn't get it the way I wanted it. Then we go forward to 2008, when I started a photography company with my eldest son, Jason, a company called Grand Life Originals, GLO. Very successful company, my son owns it. But in 2008, when we started it, I got my hands on a bunch of digital photography equipment, and it changed my life. I learned pretty quick how to utilize a pretty high performance editing tool where you would do darkroom work, if you will, on your laptop and desktop. It changed my life because the things I wanted to do as a young adult with photography that I couldn't, or was impossible or nearly impossible, now I could do. And I figured that out in a couple of days working with the application software, the editing software. I didn't become fluent with it for several months, but in a matter of a couple of days, the lights went on, and I realized there was capability there that was going to help me get to where I wanted to go. And that's where I started 18 years ago. So editing software I use is called Lightroom. It's made by Adobe. And when I first started using it, my eldest son got me started in the direction of understanding how to utilize the software. And what I did was, for several months, I went through it and made every adjustment you can imagine just to see how they interacted with one another. It's an exceptional piece of software. And in the digital world, what a nice piece of editing software enables you to do is to make adjustments for everything. Color saturation, luminescence, brightness, contrast, shadows, highlights, whites, blacks, texture, clarity. I could go on and on. It's remarkable what you can do. And for folks that have been in the film world for as long as I have, I imagine for everybody it was just remarkable. I would highly recommend it. It's a very powerful piece of software, and it's easy to navigate. So from a genre perspective, what I primarily shoot is landscapes, natural items, things in the natural world, architectural. And I also migrate into the abstract world a bit, which goes back to the things I saw when I was a child that I thought were cool. And I wanted to explore those, but I wasn't sure how to do that. From a things that are cool perspective, the things I saw as a child, and I didn't realize it until later, what I appreciated, and I still appreciate, are the components of light and color, as opposed to the subject. The subject didn't matter to me when I was a kid. I would see the outline of a leaf that was being highlighted by the sun. I thought it was cool. A ripple in a pond, I thought it was cool. And so what I realized later on was that I was appreciating as a kid the components of a composition, irregardless of what the subject was. The subject didn't matter. What was cool were the components of the composition: the light, the color, the movement of a subject. They were cool. From a style perspective, I shoot color and in black and white, and so monochromes, black and whites, have been a passion I've had as long as I can remember. And I jokingly have told a friend that it's a passion of which I cannot escape. I love shooting black and white. But I shoot black and white and color. My black and whites are typically dark and moody, and that's not badness, but that's just the way they look. And my colors are moody, but they're not dark because there's typically vibrant and powerful colors in my color, along with real high contrast typically. And most every print I have is going to have real strong contrast to it. And that's with the black and whites, that's what produces a real dramatic feel for the black and whites. And it will do it with the color as well. Along with that, style-wise, I'm very prone to select non-standard sizes, like 12 by 24s or 10 by 30s. Not always, but a lot of that is a result of finding a subject within the subject. Whatever it is you've captured, I'm likely going to get to something inside that picture, inside that view, and make everything else go away because it's distracting. So if you look at what defines an artist, or what I thought defined an artist for me, is when I got my first 35mm camera, because I was already thinking that way. I was already viewing photographs, seeing what I thought was fun, what was cool. So I think it started then, when I started exploring at 21, diving deep into the photography world. And I think that what defined me is me believing that I was successful as being an artist, photography artist, was when I realized I had control of the direction I wanted to go. And once I got into digital photography and using Lightroom, probably about 5 years into it, I realized I was lined up with the way I wanted to go. And that 5 years had to do with shooting a myriad of photographs and editing them in Lightroom. And I was real prone at the time to overcook them, to overbake them, so they were too bright, they were too saturated. They were too something, and I just played around with that for several years. And then I finally settled down and got my style where it is right now, and that's the way I shoot. Now I could find something down the road where I say I need to modify that and try something different, and I would do that because I think you learn as you go, and as an artist you shouldn't prevent yourself from growing if you learn or see something new. I should be grateful that this happened. I've not been in a gallery. I've been given this opportunity. It's a wonderful community of people. Daryl gave me the opportunity to be part of the gallery when it opened, and that was remarkable. So I was at the house one day, and my phone rang, and it was Daryl. And Daryl started exploring with me the possibility of being involved in a gallery. And I said, well, sure. And he wanted me to look at a gallery with him, and we did look at a possibility. And it wasn't what he was looking for. And time went on a little bit, a few weeks, and he called me up and he said, hey, I have something I want to show you. And he sent me a photograph of what has now become the gallery, and there wasn't anything here. It was just a big room. And when I saw it, I was pretty excited, and I said, sure, let's do this. And Daryl said, well, you want to come see it? And I went, nope, I'm going to do this. And so Daryl invited me to be part of the gallery before the gallery was even built. And I was very excited, and my much better half, I asked her about it, and she said, don't blink an eye, make it happen. And so she was very excited for me. It's been a wonderful opportunity to be part of this community, and I'm thrilled and honored that Daryl took a chance on me. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And this is my home. This is my first gallery, but I will say this, I'm not leaving. Somebody's gonna have to drag me out of here, but I'm not leaving. I love being in the community. I didn't know what to expect being in the gallery, but it has been a wonderful experience. There's 35 artists in here, and I've been received. People are very enthusiastic about their art, sharing with me their stories, and me learning as I go from other artists, which has been goodness. One thing interesting about working with painters, it's really surprised me at the similarities, because I never thought about that, the similarities that painters have with photographers, where they're thinking about light and shadow and color and depth. Many, if not all, the components you think about as a photographer. I am very happy to be here, and I'm honored that I was asked to be part of the startup of this gallery. So right now what I have in the gallery is a series of photos. I think there are 15 on the wall right now. A couple of them are abstract. Most of them are not. Most of them are fine art photographs. And fine art photograph, by definition, is a photograph that you've taken off the camera and you've enhanced or adjusted it for aesthetics, made it more pleasing. All the prints I have right now that are hanging in the gallery are on 16th inch metal, on aluminum, and they're high gloss. And the way they're put on the metal is through a process called sublimation. And basically and quickly, what happens is there's a polyester coating put on the metal, and the print is applied from a photographic paper print using pressure and high temperature. And what it does is it turns the ink into a gas, and the gas permeates the polyester that's on the metal, and it becomes part of the metal. So right now there are a variety of sizes, and at some time in the not too distant future, I'm going to make some prints from those and mat and frame them so they'll be actually on paper, probably on mat. Something I learned or felt a while back, and then got some confirmation of it, at least from another artist much better than me, which was Eric Clapton. I was always interested in Eric because he was very careful with being too highfalutin about his art, about his music. And I read an article about him that covered that a bit more. And he said self-admiration could be dangerous because it can make you complacent. And complacency is the enemy of artistic growth. And so the point was, don't get so highfalutin about your work, because it might prevent you from growing any further. So 2 things in my life that I do to keep me from getting there. My son and I play a game with each other. We have gotcha prints that we send to one another, where we do something that's just, we think is hitting a home run right out of the park. And inevitably, the person that did it will call the other person and say, you might want to sit down for this one. I'm sending you a text right now, boom, and send the text. And so we have a big time with that. And something I do frequently is I have a photo file on my phone it's entitled Photos That Keep Me Humble. And these are photographs that I find online, on Facebook, and I just copy those and I save them to that file. Those are the photographs where I say to myself, my goodness, how in the world did they do that? You gotta stay humble. So, all right, my closing comment is this. Photography is an interesting art because it's viewed as you take a picture and you're good to go. Even if you edit it well, you just edited the picture. Ansel Adams talked about that, and he said basically you capture a moment, you take a snapshot, and then you create the photograph. You make the photograph. And so I'm always think in my mind that what you're doing in photography is you're capturing and then creating. You're capturing a moment and then turning it into the image that you want it to be. And I think it's real important for people to realize that because it's not, at least for me, it doesn't come off the camera ready to go ever. So there's a lot more work involved in it from an artistic perspective and technically to get it to where you need it. Most of the work is not done shooting the picture. Most of the work is done after the picture is shot. So I believe with any art form, and certainly with photography, you have to be careful that you don't say, this is it. This is how I'm gonna always do it. In photography, it shouldn't work that way because light's gonna be different in the scene. The seasons are gonna make it different. And it's very important for me that I don't sit on my laurels and go, well, this is the way I'm gonna do it every time. It's not gonna happen. With photographs, you have what's called metadata. And that data is saved with the print, or we'll say with the negative. It's saved with the image on your phone or in your camera that tells you how you shot it. It tells you the technical components of the shot, how fast, what the sensor was set to, what the f-stop. It gives you all that data so you can go back and look and say, oh, that's how I did that. I don't like it. I would do this different the next time. I'm very prone to make sure that I really like it and I'm satisfied with it before I go forward. And I've had at least one case prior to coming to the gallery, right prior to the gallery, a piece I had worked on off and on for 2 years, and I was not happy with it at all. And I couldn't figure it out. And I had 2 versions of it from the original, and it wasn't even close to what I wanted. And 2 weeks before the gallery opened, I was thinking, golly, I really want to get this print out there, but it's just not ready to go. And I've been looking at it for a long time, not always, but periodically I kept going back to it. I knew something was there, I just couldn't find it. And so I went back to the original print. I started fresh, and within 30 minutes I got it where it needed to be, where I wanted it to be, to go to the lab, or to go to the gallery. And so for me, it's important that I don't give up on something that I don't like that I did. It's important to hang on to it. As far as getting better, I think the way you get better is you practice. And so I constantly look. When I walked into the gallery recently, I'm looking at light. I'm seeing how the shadows are falling from the time of day. It's important for me to practice the art form, at least in my head, constantly, looking for the moment where you're going to be surprised and go, I didn't expect that to happen, because that's what's going to happen in photography, is unexpected. And so You should never sit back. I won't sit back and say, I've completely got my brain wrapped around it, because I don't. It changes every time the sun comes up. It's going to look different.